Welcome, Robin Daly from yesterlife.org.uk to Perfect Health with Elaine Godley. Thank you for spending time this afternoon talking to us.
Absolute pleasure, Elaine. Thanks very much for inviting me.
So, Yes to Life is a cancer charity, and a lot of people know a lot of things about it, but many of our listeners are from all over the world and won't know what you do here in the UK. So can you give us a brief summary of what Yes to Life does?
Certainly, yeah. So we're there to support people with cancer in accessing integrative medicine and in understanding it. So integrative medicine, just to be clear, means the widest possible choice of approaches to cancer. So this is everything that conventional medicine has to offer, plus anything else that could help, basically. There's kind of no limits on it. And so half of what we do is educational. It's telling people about integrative medicine and how it works. And the rest of it is direct support for people with cancer. So if they come to us, we can get them personalized information about what could be helpful for them, given their own personal circumstances. And we also help them with accessing that as well if they're in financial trouble.
So does that mean you offer small grants, for example? Is that the sort of thing that you help with?
Yes, we do. Yeah, they are small grants. We have a small grant scheme, but they often can make the difference between somebody keeping up a program or not. Somebody's hard up. We also help people who need big money because they want to go abroad for treatment or something. We can't afford that kind of size of grant, but we can help people to fundraise. So we do that as well. These are called personal fundraising schemes.
Brilliant. Okay. So what sort of thing would people go abroad for?
Well, integrative medicine doesn't really exist in Britain, sadly. We're way behind. Some other countries much further ahead, and they have integrative clinics, basically, where you can get conventional treatment alongside a lot of other approaches, which actually improve its effectiveness, reduce the side effects, and keep the body's functions basically going well in the face of something like chemotherapy. So, it's legendary that treatments like chemotherapy completely smash your immune system. Your immune system was the thing that went wrong in the first place that meant you got cancer. So the two concepts together don't work very well. It doesn't mean that chemotherapy is completely useless. It just means that it makes complete sense to combine it with other things that stop it from harming you.
So that's the integrative model that you referred to.
Yeah, and say many clinics offer, for example, talking of chemotherapy, they would offer low-dose chemotherapy, possibly insulin potentiated as well, which is another way of making it more targeted, more effective, alongside treatments like hypothermia, which is using heat to make will actually make the immune system stronger. It will also open up the area that's going to be treated to accept more chemotherapy, and you might have high dose intravenous vitamins at the same time to keep you all your systems going well, to support you well. A whole range of things to actually restore your body's systems to their maximum potential. And people who go through these treatments, everybody knows that. Well, not everybody, but anybody who's got any experience knows that chemotherapy is a dreadful thing to go through, apart from the obvious symptoms of losing your hair and that kind of thing. Generally speaking, it's accompanied by horrendous sickness, damage to organs, your gut gets seen off. There's so many bad effects of it. But integrative clinics, very often, the patients who go through there come out feeling better than they normally do, which is extraordinary. And the chemotherapy is just as effective. So this is kind of an intelligent 21st century approach to cancer treatment.
Do you think that the UK will ever catch up with what's happening overseas?
Oh my God, will it ever catch up? Sometimes I lose faith. Of course, that's what we're pushing for all the time. I sincerely hope so. I mean, I've got to say that, Yes Life's been running for 13 years. And in that time, we've gone from being rank outsiders, complete bunch of crystal gazing hippies, to now we talk to people at the forefront of the NHS and they talk the same language. So, you know, things have changed. It's just unbelievably slow because of the amount of opposition there is to change. And, you know, changing the NHS is like, you know, real turning a supertanker around stuff. It's just got a momentum of its own that's so hard to grapple with. But, you know, things have changed in that time. We're in a very different position as a charity now to when we started. So, you know, there's hope.
I attended your conference last year. I remember Dr. Rupi Anjay and Dr. Chatterjee, who are these bright young things of the medical world, and it's really heartening.
It's very interesting, that whole thing. It's kind of it's sort of come from left field in a certain kind of way, but these people are GPs, and they the interesting thing is that they've obviously decided that being a GP is not that great a deal these days, alongside a lot of other GPs that realise that. You know, a few minutes with each patient to just dole out the pills that it tells them on the computer is not a case for job satisfaction. But they've actually gone off and got trained in functional medicine in America and come back fired up about what you can positively do to not just keep people's symptoms at bay, but actually cure them of you know, long-term chronic diseases like diabetes. And you know, they're very fired up about this. And interestingly enough, the other thing that's noteworthy, particularly if you look at the two that you mentioned there, Dr. Rupi Anjay and Dr. Ranga Chatterjee, there are others as well. They have Indian heritage, quite obviously, and I think not being so sewn up by the UK outlook of, you know, what medicine looks like is a good thing. You know, they've actually come from a background where a wider range of things is more acceptable. You know, Ayurvedic medicine or whatever it is, they've been around for a very long time and they're still in major use, you know. And so I think that has a part to play in the fact that they've gone out to look for something different.
I think it's an absolute disgrace that we have the allopathic medical route, which has only been around for what, 150 years barely, and yet they try and say that Ayurvedic medicine, German new medicine, the emotions, all the natural things, which they, and a lot of them class as quackery, that's been around for years and years and is proven, although not by scientific research. It's proven by people like me who are walking around living examples. It's a down blasted cheek, I think, but there we are. We have what we have, and as you say, it's like trying to turn a super tanker, and we're not. I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime.
Well, all right. I'm hopeful. The thing that's changing, the big number that's changed, you know, in our lifetime, is that we as a public didn't have a voice at all a few years back. Literally, medicine was carved up between three forces. There was the government, there was the medics, and then there was the business, the pharmaceuticals. And they basically worked out what we were going to get. You know, this is proletariat kind of style medicine. This is what you'll get, you know. And so they just carved it up between them. And of course, the most forceful amongst those three was business. They just showered the other two with money and made sure that everything stayed on the marketing plan. So what have we got at the other end? Well, we got drugs. Unsurprisingly, very expensive ones, largely in cancer, and not that effective, you know. So that's how it used to be. But since then, of course, the public has got a voice at last. We have something which is actually, you know, it's moved things in a more democratic direction, that we have, you know, we've got access to the internet and we have a voice. So, you know, a few years back, Diabetes UK couldn't have happened. Diabetes UK, thousands of people getting on there, learning how to do a ketogenic diet, fixing their diabetes in 2 or 3 weeks, you know, just proving that the whole nonsense of one drug in the first year, another one in the second year, another one in the third year, in order to keep the side effects at bay and never ever getting well, that is just a gravy train for the pharmaceutical industry.
And it's one in lots of medical conditions, not just cancer and diabetes, as you mentioned, but lots of medical conditions. It's a case of follow the money, which is life, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, money makes the world go round. But with the social media that we have now, I think that's a big improvement. You know, we have a voice now, and we have the ability, the opportunity to go viral on things, and people power is turning the tanker, isn't it?
Well, an awful lot of people, rather than going to their doctor for advice, are just telling each other what to do. They're actually bypassing the whole health service because it just doesn't suit them. And well, that's also good because it gives them another opportunity, which does suit them. And it's not ideal because it'd be much better if the health service actually did the job properly. But as you say, it follows the money. The health service, it's supposed to be free, and all the rest of it sounds all very altruistic, but it's entirely done for profit. That's the truth.
Yes.
There's one or two things in there that aren't for profit, but nearly everything is for profit. And if you bring anything along that's too cheap, it won't be done. You can be sure it'll be ignored.
Absolutely.
And a prime example of that in cancer is photodynamic therapy. Photodynamic therapy is over 100 years old. It's got trials that show it works with some cancers. It actually works with any solid tumor. It's cheap, it's effective, it's non-toxic. You can do it as many times as you need to. And I was speaking to one of the world's leaders in this field, who he's pretty much given up on this country because there's no interest. In third world countries, this is like, brilliant. You can go out there, you can set up a clinic for about £8,000, and each person can be treated for £200.
Really?
Now you can be quite sure the NHS will never be interested in a treatment like that.
And what is photodynamic therapy?
Photodynamic therapy, it's been around 100 years, uses light basically, and it matches up a drug, which it can be pretty mild, non-toxic, with a particular wavelength of light. And you basically give the drug in the area that you want to treat. It's particularly taken up preferably by cancer cells. They will take up more than other cells. You expose it to some laser light at the right frequency, and that produces free radicals that kill the cells it's in. So it's a great treatment in that it's just remarkably simple. It's a cell kill treatment, which means that it has its limitations. It doesn't do anything for your immune system, anything like that. Well, no, that's not true. It even does something for your immune system, actually killing the cancer in your body rather than cutting it out. The recent reports say that this actually generates an immune response. So it even does that, but nonetheless, you probably wouldn't want to do just photodynamic therapy. If you're thinking integrative, you do a lot of other things as well. But if you want to do something that really knocks your cancer, well, it's a great treatment. You've just got to be able to get a laser optic fibre to the site.
So can Yes to Life explain to people, or direct people, signpost, and whatever the term you use, can Yes to Life direct people where to get this treatment from?
We can. I mean, there's less and less of it in this country. Literally, 10 years ago, it was better. We could send people down the road to get it, but it's just fizzled out, literally. Even though I had a cancer charity that was dedicated to driving it. It's still got another one, actually, that's set up since, but that one fizzled out. But, there's still people who are absolutely committed to driving it forward. But the opposition to anything so effective and cheap is just enormous, Sorry, we don't do that. We do chemotherapy, surgery, radiotherapy. That's it.
So that still is available in the UK, but on a limited basis. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
So the charity has a directory on the website. Tell us about how people can access that directory and what's in it.
Okay, well, this is an attempt to pull together as much good information as possible about places where you can access treatment. So it's got three sides to do. Like it's got all the practitioners who are at work, or the clinics, and then it's also got the treatments themselves. And so you can go on there and you can search for a particular kind of treatment, or you can search for a particular practitioner, and you can do it by location as well. So you can also search in near to you, basically, in a part of Britain. It's kind of UK centric in that it's got much more information about what's available in the UK than in many other parts of the world, but it's still actually international because, you know, people do travel from the UK to a lot of countries. And so, you know, we attempt to keep it up to date internationally as well.
Okay, that's brilliant. So that's a resource that people can access via the internet, which is yestolife.org.uk.
Correct. And it's called the Life Directory, it's called.
Okay, fabulous. So how did you create, because you're the founder and the chairman, Robin, of Yes to Life, and you've mentioned it's been going for 13 years. So what happened to get you into this position?
Well, I think a lot of charities start off just through one person's personal experience, makes them think, oh my God, we've got to do something about this. And that was the case for me. I had a daughter called Bryony who had cancer 3 times in her short life. And so we spent an awful lot of time in hospitals and various places. She was first diagnosed with cancer when she was 9, and again when she was 13, and again when she was 22. And it was quite a story of a huge learning curve for us, obviously. And when we started out, when she was 9, I mean, we were always the kind of people to look outside the box. You know, we were always looking for everything we could to help her. But when she was 9, there was no internet, and we didn't even have a mobile phone. So it was pretty hard, basically. And same was true when she was 13. So we found stuff to do, but it was limited. You know, when I now know what was out there that we didn't know about, because things have changed from that point of view. Anyway, she's 22 years old and she gets re-diagnosed again. The internet has arrived, and it's like, well, 5 billion results for alternative cancer treatment, whatever it is, massive, you know. And so I knew that orthodox treatment wasn't going to have anything much on offer for her at this point because she was already late stage. So I started doing this job of looking on the internet, and I was working, I was sleeping for 2.5 hours a day, and I was just doing it non-stop. And, you know, it was just website after website with list after list after list of treatments. You had to sort of correlate them, see that one's rubbish, you know, and then when you find something that looks interesting, you have to work out whether it's relevant, whether you can get it, whether you can afford it, whether it's in South America, who's doing it. There's so, you know, it's just unthinkably huge task. And you're trying to learn about cancer at the same time, which is just a bit complex. So it was fundamentally, it's not a tenable thing to do, especially if you happen to be the person with cancer. The chances of you really coming up with some good stuff are pretty slim. So it was very obvious to us then that basically people need help with this. They need directing to the good stuff quickly. So, you know, in terms of what we were setting out to do, that was it really. We're trying to help people to get good information as soon as possible to help them. And that's what Yes to Life did from the outset. That's what we're still doing. And so you know, we came up with the idea while Bryony was still alive. She died very shortly afterwards, unfortunately, quite suddenly. You know, she had lung failure because she had secondaries in her lungs. And we were left with some money, which we'd raised for her treatment. And so we used that to set up Yes to Life, and off we went from there. So that was, she died in 2014, and the beginning of 2015, we were off with Yes to Life.
2004, 2005.
2004, yeah. I've just lost a decade amongst friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, gosh, okay. So you have a team of volunteers that help. I know you have the central office with a very small team there, led by Sue DeCesare, and you have a team of volunteers. How do the volunteers help the charity?
Okay, well, right at the start, I was the helpline, and that carried on for a little while, but eventually, of course, we needed more people to do this stuff. And so we set up a training scheme, and we train people to be helpline operators. The way it operates is that people work from their own homes. We don't have, of course, a call center with everybody with the headsets on and all that. People work from home, and when they finish the training, they set off, and they have a mentor for the first period until they're sort of bedded in and used to it. But they work they tell us how much they're able to give in terms of time, and people will do 1 day a week, say. And our call centre works on the principle that we have no directly answered calls. You call in, you leave a message, basically, and you'll get a call back, usually within an hour or two. So, if you're on the helpline that day, Tuesday, any calls that come in from midnight to midnight, they're yours. They come into the system as a recording, and you listen to the recording, and when you're ready, you settle down and you do your calls for the day. And that might range from, 3 calls that take 5 minutes to, several calls, 1 or 2 of which could be 45 minutes, say. So it's quite variable what comes in, but some people need to talk. That just the talking is one of the biggest, most important things, is people have the opportunity to talk to somebody who doesn't think they're completely nuts because they want to do something that isn't just chemotherapy, surgery, or radiotherapy.
It's as a volunteer, I find it very rewarding. On my volunteer days, I find that sometimes people come on the phone, they're crying their eyes out because they've just been dismissed by a doctor to go home and die, got their affairs in order, or they're going to, got a few weeks or whatever. So they come on the phone in tears. They often end up in tears, but tears of hope and joy to know that there are alternatives. So that there's other things that they can do, and it's not just curtains for them. So it is a very rewarding volunteer position, and you're always on the lookout for more volunteers, aren't you, Robin?
Definitely. If anybody listens thinks they might be interested, then they should definitely get in touch with the charity. Yeah.
Marvellous. Okay, I'll give the number at the end for people to call into. So what's next what's on the horizon then for Yes to Life? Where are you? Is it more of the same? Is there more things coming on? What's happening?
Well, in some ways it's more of the same, but a lot more of the same, because we've been, we know what we're doing in terms of what we're delivering. We've been delivering it steadily for years, and that's both in terms of education and in terms of personal support. In a way, we're just scratching the surface. It's growing all the time, but we do want to push it much more now. It's a time when the public are much more aware of the fact that there are other things going on outside of conventional medicine. They're much more open to the ideas of doing something outside conventional medicine. Typically, the older you are, the less open you are to doing anything other than what the doctor tells you. That's not always the case, but that's typically so. And the younger people really are like, well, okay, what you got? They're just ready to go in terms of looking at whatever it is. So we really want to push the agenda forward. We've got some quite big plans, but they're sort of under wraps at the moment. I'm not going to tell you about them right now, but we do want to grow our offering quite considerably and get our head above the parapet a lot more. The education program of ours has been growing steadily every year. Our annual conference has become quite a fixture in the calendar. I think we doubled the numbers last year who came to it. We've got some marvellous people who are now prepared to talk for us and on our behalf, who, from the NHS, would you believe it, which is absolutely brilliant, because, in the past, everybody who came as a speaker for us would have been some form of alternative practitioner.
Yes.
And that's not to say they're not fantastic, because they are. There's all sorts of great people, but it's so heartening to have some people from the health service who are prepared to speak out about doing more than just your regular treatment. So anyway, we're going to, the kind of brand that we put on the last year's conference was starting the conversation. That means a conversation between orthodox medicine and everybody else who's trying to help people with cancer. And we're going to push that another step further this year. That's a good direction, we feel, and that's what we want to see a lot more of. So that's where we're going to be going.
Where is the conference this year, and when is it?
It's in London. It's on December the 1st. And I haven't got the venue on the top of my head, but of course it'll be advertised widely very soon. Okay,
that's brilliant. So, and the other thing that I know is happening, because I started it actually today, you have the first Wigwam meeting that was held in Nottingham today. So Wigwam is a brand under your Yes to Life charity. and it's for exactly what you've been describing in this interview. So it's for helping people who want signposting for integrative health and well-being, or also people who support those. So friends and family are welcome as well, and also to open people's eyes as to how not to get cancer in the first place. So it's a sort of multifaceted group, and I love the name Wigwam. It's great.
Yeah, well, the idea is to have wigwams all over the country. This is a small groupings to allow people to have a local place where they go and find people who are like-minded, thinking like they are, and who will want to share ideas, who want to support each other, and where you can go and there will be speakers or whatever, there'll be demonstrations of things, all sorts of ways of learning. So just little basic little hubs, all around the country is the idea. So well done for being number one. I hope there are going to be many more to follow.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure they will do. Okay, so I asked guests on the interview to suggest 2 songs, and your 2 songs, Stevie Wonder, "You Are the Sunshine of My Life." So what's inspired you to suggest that song?
Well, if there's anybody who gets the title of for doing the kind of theme tune in my life, has to be Stevie Wonder. I've listened to him consistently most of my years, and I could have chosen any one of dozens and dozens of songs of his, which I absolutely love to death. But I chose that one because it was the first one. I already, when I was a teenager, Stevie Wonder was around doing regular Tamla Motown stuff, but I don't know when it was, about 22 or something, I went to supper with somebody and they put this album on, and the first track, "You're the Sunshine of My Life," and it's just like, what is that? And rushed out to buy it the next day, and been buying them ever since. So that was the one that kind of started me on being, completely bowled over by him.
Marvellous. And memories of your youth?
Those as well, yeah. But
Okay. And the other song you've chosen is Joni Mitchell, "All I Want."
Yeah, well, Joni Mitchell is another person. I mean, these are both real oldies I've chosen here. But anyway, she's enormously creative woman. I have huge respect for her creativity in so many ways. She just blasted onto the scene with a completely original way of singing, original songs, fantastic lyrics. They're sort of effervescent songs. They're just bursting with life. And that album, Blue, one of her classics. I still really love it. And again, this is the first track, which just opens with a bam. She's off, and really great.
Marvellous. Okay, well, those songs will be played after this interview. Thank you so much, Robin Daly of Yes to Life, to spend time with us this afternoon. And we look forward to watching how the wigwams are growing around the country, and to helping share the conference on December the 1st this year. So the website,
thank you very much,
is www.yestolife.org.uk. 3 words, yestolife.org.uk. Thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you. Absolutely my pleasure.